She said, "I love you." But a few days later, I found out that it was all a fake. Listen to the end, because the ending of this story will definitely shock you. I used to think silence was peaceful, a kind of white space where love could breathe. But lately, our silence had a pulse. It throbbed with something I couldn't name at first, something slippery and cold. I noticed it the same morning the figurine disappeared. That little glass bird, her so-called talisman. She used to dust it like it was sacred, used to tap its beak for luck before heading out. Gone now like a joke no one laughs at anymore. She didn't mention it, didn't even glance at the spot it used to sit. I didn't ask. But in that moment, something in me clicked, like a camera shutter capturing the beginning of an unraveling. From then on, I started watching the background noise, the details people overlook when they trust. A new shampoo bottle, herbal, nothing like the floral scent she loved for years. A faint cologne on her hoodie once, not mine. She said it was from testing perfume at the mall. But the mall was closed that day. She started jogging later than usual, came back with her ponytail slicked down in a way that didn't match the way she left. When I asked how her run was, she'd smile a little too quickly, like she'd practiced it in the mirror. Then came the night I woke up and saw the glow from her phone. Just her silhouette, sitting on the edge of the bed, hunched over the screen like it held oxygen. Her thumb moved fast. Swipe, tap, delete. Her eyes darted back toward me every few seconds. I let my breath stay slow, stayed still, like prey. She slid back under the covers eventually, didn't touch me, just laid there. But that was it. That was the second the rules changed. That night I didn't sleep at all. Not because I was hurt, not yet. I just realized I was in a game I hadn't signed up for. Instead of confronting her, I leaned into the quiet. I played the role she expected. Loving, distracted, easy to lie to. A week later, I suggested we go to the lake house for the weekend. The one we used to call our pause button. She smiled, said yes without hesitation. But during the drive, she barely looked out the window. Her fingers were glued to her phone, thumbs flying, pausing only when I glanced her way. Once I caught the reflection of a message on her screen in the passenger window. I couldn't read it, but it wasn't short. And when she realized I was looking, she quickly locked the phone and tossed it into her bag like it had burned her. That night, I held her like always, wrapped her in my arms, her breath warm against my chest. I even whispered something sweet, just to see how she'd respond. She murmured something back, soft, affectionate. But I wasn't there, not really. My mind was pacing. I wondered who she pictured when I held her. Did she think of me? Or did she layer someone else's face over mine, like Photoshop? I couldn't ask. Not yet. The game had rules, and I wasn't ready to lose. In the morning, I was up before her, made her favorite breakfast. Cinnamon toast, eggs the way she liked them, not the way I did. Left it on the kitchen table with a note. Simple. Just a few words. You look happy, finally makes sense. Not with me. I didn't stay to see her reaction. I went out back and stood by the lake, the cold breeze clawing at my jacket, waiting to see if she'd come find me. She didn't. Something had cracked between us. Not a break, not yet, but a hairline fracture that ran beneath the surface, invisible to everyone else. I knew what was coming, but I needed to be sure, because if I was going to watch my marriage burn, I wasn't going to do it from a distance. I was going to stand close enough to feel the heat, so I changed tactics, became the man she used to adore, bought flowers, cooked dinner, sent sweet texts during the day. She responded like a flower in sunlight, smiling more, laughing at my jokes again, even humming when she cooked. She dropped her guard. Let herself believe the version of me she was getting now was real. Maybe she even thought I'd forgotten how distant she'd been, but I hadn't. I was just getting closer to the truth. One night during dinner with her friends, I casually asked a question. Simple. Hey, did your Chicago trip get canceled? I said it while cutting into my steak, eyes on the plate. I felt the air freeze. I looked up, and there it was. Just a second, a flicker, but her eyes widened. Then she smiled too fast. Oh yeah, I told you, it got postponed. She hadn't told me. I knew it. She knew it. Her friends glanced at each other, suddenly quiet. The kind of silence people use to sidestep an explosion. She excused herself and disappeared into the bathroom. I sat there with my wine, swirling it slowly, and started counting seconds. 10, 30, a full minute, then 2. She didn't come out for over 10 minutes. When she finally returned, her eyes were rimmed in red. Said she had a migraine. Said she needed to go home. I drove us in silence, her head against the window, mine full of gears turning. I didn't speak, didn't even look at her, and I knew she wasn't thinking about Chicago. She was thinking about who else knew and what would happen next. What she didn't realize was that I'd stopped caring about what she'd done. I was focused on what she would do next and how deep the lies would go before she either snapped or confessed. But I had no intention of asking for the truth. That would have been too easy. The silence between us grew sharper after that night. Not just absence of sound, but the kind that slices. She moved like someone trying not to be seen, even when we were alone. I watched her eyes more than her words now. They darted too much, lingered too little. When I brought up memories, she laughed, but always half a second too late. That instinctive spark she used to have when she looked at me, gone. I was no longer the mirror she saw herself in. I was just the frame. She still played the part, but her script was off. Her lines didn't match the scene anymore. I started dropping little traps, soft ones, casual mentions. One day, while reading the news out loud, I slipped a name into the conversation. A coworker's name, a guy from my office I had barely spoken to in months. I said he'd recently gotten engaged, something light, just filler. But her reaction? Her spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. Her face drained, just for a second. Then she forced a smile and nodded, but her fingers trembled on the stem of her glass. That was when I knew. She wasn't cheating with a stranger. She was cheating with someone close. That night she came on to me. No teasing, no warm-up. It was urgent, uncharacteristic, like she was trying to erase something. Her touch was desperate, her breathing fast. And I let her. I didn't say no, but I didn't give her what she was after either, because I knew she wasn't with me. Not really, not in her mind. I kept my eyes open the whole time, and when it was over, I stayed awake while she curled up beside me and fell asleep like nothing had happened. I stared at the ceiling, counting the slow tick of betrayal like a metronome. The next day, I handed her an envelope. Inside was a gift card, brochure, and a handwritten note, a weekend spa retreat. Just for her. "You've been stressed," I told her. "You deserve to relax, alone." She looked at me surprised, almost suspicious, but not enough to say no. She thanked me and kissed my cheek, said she loved me. I smiled. She left Friday morning, said she'd be out of reception. I nodded, told her to enjoy it. But the moment her car was out of sight, I sat down at her desk and opened her laptop. I didn't have a password. She'd changed it recently. But I didn't need to go through her computer. I wanted to see what she'd left behind. Her browser history was wiped. Her messaging apps logged out. She hadn't even forgotten an open tab. That was more telling than any message. She had cleaned up like a criminal. But people never erase everything. In her nightstand, beneath old receipts and hand cream tubes, I found a charger. A second phone charger. For a phone I hadn't seen. That meant she had another one. A burner or something she only used away from home. A hidden world I couldn't touch yet. But I didn't get angry. I just smiled. Because now it wasn't a guess. It was real. Her entire second life was happening just beneath the floorboards of mine. When she came back 2 days later, she looked radiant, rested, happy. She kissed me when she walked in, said she'd missed me. I told her I missed her too. Then I asked how the spa was. She described it in detail. Massages, facials, a long hike in the hills. She didn't know I'd called the spa the day before. They confirmed her booking, but said she'd never checked in. I didn't say anything that night. I just watched her sleep. Her breathing soft, her hair across the pillow, her mouth slightly parted like she had nothing to hide. That's when I felt it. Something inside me had shifted, not snapped, not rage, just emptied, like a plug had been pulled, and all the care had drained out. The next move had to be precise. I wanted to test how well she could lie under pressure, how well she could hold her mask when her world started slipping. So I made a call. I invited her sister to dinner, didn't tell her in advance. I made the reservation, set the table, poured the wine. When her sister walked in, she froze at the door, holding a bottle of red, confused. "I thought you guys were in Sonoma this week," she said, looking at my wife. My wife blinked. A pause. Too long. Then she smiled, a little stiff, and replied, "Oh, the surprise trip got canceled last minute. Something came up." Her sister didn't respond right away. She just smiled and sat down. But her eyes found mine across the table. I held her gaze for a second, just long enough. The whole night was polite, forced, brittle. My wife tried too hard to be cheerful. Her stories were too rehearsed. Her laughs didn't land. Her sister barely touched her food. And when she stood to leave, she hugged me tightly, too tightly, and whispered in my ear, "I don't know what's going on between you two, but be careful. She's not who she used to be." She walked out into the night without looking back. My wife stared at the closed door for a long time. I didn't say a word. Neither did she. That was it. That was the moment I knew I was done chasing the truth. Because it didn't matter anymore. I didn't want explanations. Didn't want tears or excuses or some clumsy confession dropped like broken glass on the floor. What I wanted now was closure, but not the clean kind people write about. I wanted the slow kind, the surgical kind, the kind that made her feel the cracks before the break. And I knew exactly how I'd start. After her sister's warning, I stopped chasing answers. I didn't want a confession. I wanted her to break herself trying to protect the lie. And she was already unraveling. She barely looked me in the eye. She laughed at the wrong moments. Her stories had gaps, and the way she held her phone was almost frantic, like it held secrets too hot to touch for long. So I leaned into it. I gave her everything. Notes in her purse, surprise dinners, compliments whispered when no one was around. I wanted her guilt to swell, to crowd out every moment of joy she tried to fake with him, and I could feel it working. She smiled, but her smile never reached her eyes. Her hands trembled when I touched her. Guilt makes the body do strange things. Then I planned the night that would end whatever mask she had left. Just a few friends. A simple evening at home. Nothing formal. She hesitated when I suggested it, tried to say she was tired, but I smiled and insisted. She showed up in a dress I hadn't seen in years, wearing perfume she only used for special occasions, or apparently other men. The night started fine. Laughter, stories, casual wine. But I watched her, and she wasn't present. Her eyes moved too much. Her smile was forced. She laughed at the wrong punchlines. So when the room was warm and comfortable, I stood up and told them I had a slideshow. "Just memories," I said. The screen lit up. Happy moments, vacations, wedding photos, then recent shots, a dinner table I wasn't at, a blurry selfie with a man cropped out just enough to deny. And finally, one picture. Her wrapped in someone's arms, a kiss framed in shadows, taken from a distance. She froze. The room dropped into silence. She whispered, "It's fake," but her voice cracked. One of our closest friends stood, set down his glass, and walked out without a word. The rest followed. No one said goodbye to her. She stood there shaking, mascara smudged, clutching a wine glass like it could hold the lie together. I didn't speak. I just sat back down and poured myself another drink. That was the moment the last us dissolved completely. She left the next morning, didn't even slam the door. 3 days passed. On the 4th, she returned with a suitcase and swollen eyes. She asked to talk, said it was complicated, said she made a mistake. I let her speak until she ran out of words. Then I told her, "It wasn't complicated. You just wanted to. So you did." I handed her a folder. Court papers. She didn't cry then. She was too stunned. But later, after she left again, the world kept moving. People stopped returning her calls. The truth had already spread, not from me, but because betrayal leaves trails. Everyone saw what I did, and no one came to rescue her. What she didn't know, couldn't understand yet, was that this was only the beginning of what she'd lose. She didn't come back to the house for a while after that, and I didn't ask where she was staying. It didn't matter. The home felt cleaner without her. quieter but not empty. Her perfume had started fading from the pillows. Her hair stopped showing up in the shower drain. I moved through the space like a man reclaiming territory, drawer by drawer, memory by memory. And every time I found something she forgot to take, it felt less like grief and more like junk left behind after a storm. The papers sat unsigned for almost 2 weeks. I didn't push, I didn't call, but I knew where she was. I'd quietly followed the digital trail she thought she'd scrubbed. Her hotel stay, 2 towns over, a name on the billing statement that wasn't hers, and a car, his, that showed up on the same lot 3 nights in a row. She didn't stop cheating after she got caught. She just got quieter, which meant she wasn't sorry. She was just exposed. So I gave her more rope. One night I sent her a message, short, clean. Let's talk. Dinner, my treat. She answered quickly, agreed too fast. That was how I knew she still believed there was something left to save. I picked a familiar restaurant, the kind we used to celebrate anniversaries in, when we still wore each other like armor instead of ash. She showed up dressed in something soft, nostalgic, like she wanted to remind me of who she used to be. She talked carefully. Her words came out like she'd rehearsed them in the mirror. She tried to reach back towards something that wasn't there anymore. I've changed, she said. I needed to lose everything to see what I had. But the timing was off. I wasn't there to be convinced. I let her speak. I even smiled in the right places. But my mind was elsewhere, rehearsing something of my own. The next morning I had flowers delivered, not to her sister. A simple card. Thanks for seeing through the smoke. A message that said more than it needed to. And just like that, another line connecting her to someone close began to snap. Later that week, I mailed a small box to her parents. Inside, the necklace they gave her for our 5th anniversary. The one she left behind on the dresser. I didn't include a note. They'd know what it meant. And then came the final step in that chapter. I spoke to her employer, carefully, respectfully. I didn't slander, didn't rant. I asked if they had policies on romantic relationships within departments, especially between subordinates and superiors. The HR director was polite, but sharp and curious. She thanked me for the call, said nothing more. 2 days later, my ex texted me, just 2 words. What did you do? I didn't respond. She showed up at the house that evening, not yelling, not crying, but shaken, rattled like someone who finally realized the glass floor she'd been dancing on had cracked all the way through. Her voice was flatter now. He's been transferred. They're investigating both of us. I nodded. Sounds fair. You want to ruin me? I looked her dead in the eye. Number, I just stopped protecting you. And that was the difference she had never prepared for. She thought silence was forgiveness. Thought me walking away meant she'd walk away clean too. But there's a weight to truth when it finally drops. And now everyone who used to make excuses for her was backing away. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I just stood in the doorway, watching her try to hold herself together. She was coming apart in stages, first socially, then professionally. The personal collapse was next. I could see it, ticking just behind her eyes. As she left, her hand brushed against the door frame, like it could still remember belonging here. I said nothing, just watched the door close. She wanted freedom. She got it, but not the kind she imagined. Not the kind filled with late-night laughter and secret motel rooms. This freedom came with isolation, with silence, with cold eyes and colder shoulders from every direction she turned. And I knew the worst part hadn't hit her yet. She didn't text for 4 days after our last conversation. No calls, no emails, nothing. But that silence didn't feel like retreat. It felt like planning, like the kind of stillness that comes before a storm breaks the tree line. I didn't wait for it. I moved on. I went to the gym again, started sleeping in the center of the bed. For the first time in months, I didn't think about where she was or who she might be with. I knew, and that knowledge no longer had claws. Then one night, she showed up again. Not at my door, at the bar where my best friend and I were catching the second half of the game. She didn't see me at first. She was with someone. Not the man from the hotel, someone new, or maybe just another version of the same mistake. She was laughing, but not really. The kind of laugh people force when they're drowning and don't want to look like it. When her eyes finally found mine across the room, they froze. She didn't come over, just turned her face away and whispered something to her date, suddenly uncomfortable. He looked over, confused but didn't press. I didn't look away. I wanted her to see what I look like now. Not bitter, not angry, just done. The next morning I got a message from her sister. It was short, clipped, almost cold. "She's not okay. I thought you should know." But the thing was, I already did. Still, there was one more string I needed to cut, so I invited her over for dinner. Just one last time. I made her favorite meal, lit candles, opened the bottle of wine we'd saved for our 10th anniversary but never reached. She arrived looking nervous, confused. I didn't play games. I didn't pretend to want her back. Instead, I told her I decided to sell the house. She blinked. "But this place? It's just a place," I said. "One filled with ghosts I don't need anymore." She looked around like she was seeing the space for the first time. Her eyes lingered on the walls, the photos still hanging in the hallway. For a second, I saw a flicker of panic, like she realized what the final goodbye actually looked like. No argument, no begging, just distance. Permanent, clean, and quiet. We ate mostly in silence. She tried to ask how I was, where I was living next. I kept my answers short, polite, detached. And then I handed her an envelope. Inside were receipts, timelines, photos, everything she'd tried to erase. "I don't need these anymore," I said, "but I think you should keep them, as a reminder." Her hands trembled when she opened it. She didn't cry. I think she wanted to, but she'd already spent all her tears in places I couldn't see. She left after dessert. No hug, no touch. Just a quiet goodbye. The kind people use when they know there's no next time. And when she walked out, she didn't look back. 2 days later, she tried to talk to one of our mutual friends. The friend told her they didn't want to get involved. Another stopped responding altogether. The group chat she used to light up with photos and emojis had gone silent. She was still trying to play normal, but the ground beneath her was gone. The final blow came when she reached out to her boss. Not the man she cheated with, but the one above him. She wanted a meeting, a chance to clear her name. He rescheduled twice, then canceled entirely. HR never followed up. She hadn't just lost a marriage, she'd lost her foundation, her safety net, her illusion of control. And the scariest part for her, I knew, was that no one pushed her off the ledge. She stepped forward all on her own. She wanted to live a life without rules, without guilt, without consequences. But she forgot one thing. People always talk, not because they're cruel, because truth leaks. It drips out in glances, in silences, in side conversations that start with, "Did you hear about?" Now when she walked into rooms, people didn't smile the same. They didn't meet her eyes. They nodded politely, then found reasons to walk away. I didn't need to burn anything down. I just let the match sit there on the table, untouched. She lit it herself, thinking the fire would keep her warm. She lasted longer than I thought. Most people break sooner, collapse under the weight of being seen for what they really are. But not her. She kept going, kept posting her smiling photos, kept tagging fake friends in throwback selfies, pretending the storm hadn't touched her. But the cracks were everywhere. You could see it in the way her captions got shorter, her makeup got heavier, the light in her eyes, gone. And then she reached out again. This time, not with an apology, not to talk. She wanted something. "Can we meet? Just for coffee," she wrote. "I have questions." I agreed, not out of curiosity, but because I already knew what she was about to ask. We met at a small place downtown, somewhere neutral, nowhere we'd ever been before. She looked smaller than I remembered, her hair pulled back like she didn't care anymore. Makeup smeared just enough to suggest she tried, but not too hard. She sat across from me like a stranger. Not my wife, not even an ex. Just someone trying to grab onto the edge of a world they'd been thrown out of. She didn't waste time. Why did everyone turn on me? I didn't flinch. Because you kept lying long after the truth was obvious. I didn't lie to everyone. You didn't need to, I said. You lied to me, and they saw that. It was enough. She swallowed hard. Her hands clutched the mug like it was the only warm thing left in her life. I didn't think it would go this far. That's the problem, I said. You never thought past what you wanted in the moment. She didn't argue, just stared down into her drink, as if the foam could explain how she got here. That conversation ended quickly. She left with a quiet goodbye and a look I couldn't read. Maybe anger, maybe guilt, maybe just exhaustion. And I knew she still hadn't hit bottom. Not yet. That came 2 weeks later. She called me in the middle of the night. I almost didn't answer, but something in me, curiosity, instinct, closure, made me pick up. Her voice was raw. It's about the condo. What about it? They're kicking me out, she whispered. I can't afford it anymore. He's gone. He left the lease. I don't know where to go. I said nothing. The silence stretched long enough for her to realize I wasn't going to save her. I'm not asking for a place, she added quickly. I just didn't know who else to call. I nodded to myself. That was the last thread. The illusion that she still had me as a fallback, a safety rope. She thought if she just sounded broken enough, I'd throw her a line. But I didn't, because she wasn't drowning anymore. She'd already sunk. She just hadn't accepted it yet. You'll figure it out, I said, and hung up. I didn't hear from her after that, but I knew where she went. Word got around fast. She'd moved into a friend's spare room, barely affording rent, working temp jobs, the kind of positions she used to mock people for taking. Her social media vanished. Her phone number changed. Some said she started therapy. Others said she stopped leaving the house altogether. I didn't care what was true. I had stopped watching, but the world hadn't. One afternoon, I ran into her mother at the grocery store. She looked older, tired in the way that only comes from watching your child wreck their life from the inside out. She misses you, she said. I met her eyes. She misses who I was, not what she had. Her mother didn't disagree. She just sighed. She thought she had time. That was the lie that cost her everything. The belief that consequences waited, that damage could be reversed, that people you betray will always stay within reach. Now she had nothing left to trade. No secrets to bargain with, no shoulders to cry on, only memories that twisted in her gut like regrets she couldn't spit out. And the truth? She still didn't understand what it really meant to be alone. But she was about to find out. A year passed, quietly without warning. One day I woke up and realized I hadn't thought of her in weeks. Not with hate, not with longing, just nothing. The space she used to take up had gone hollow, and that emptiness didn't ache anymore. It felt clean. I had built something new in that space, something real. My days were steady, my nights peaceful, and the silence in my house no longer echoed with lies. But she hadn't vanished, not completely. Every few months I'd hear about her through the thin whispers of mutual connections. She was still in the city, still scraping by. Temp job to temp job, couch to couch. No steady home, no steady anything. Her friends had all moved on or cut her out. Her name came up less and less. Not because people forgot, but because no one wanted to remember. Then one evening, I saw her again. Not up close. Just across the street downtown, outside a thrift store, fumbling with a paper bag in the wind. She looked thinner. Her coat hung too loose around her shoulders. She caught sight of me and froze. Just for a second. Her eyes widened. She didn't smile, didn't wave, just stared, like she'd seen a ghost wearing the life she used to have. I didn't cross the street. I didn't nod. I didn't give her anything. She looked away first. That mattered. A week later, I got the letter. Not handwritten, typed, neat, formal. But the words cracked between the lines. She said she wasn't asking to come back. She wasn't even asking for forgiveness. She just wanted me to understand. Wanted me to know that it all started with loneliness, with needing to feel seen, that it was never meant to destroy what we had. She said she still dreamed about the house, about me, about the way I used to look at her like she was the only thing that made sense. Said she sometimes walked past the old street just to see if the lights were still on. Said she'd give anything to go back, not to change what happened, but to stop herself before it began. She ended it with one last line. I ruined the one person who never wanted to break me. I folded the letter and placed it in the drawer. I didn't burn it, didn't rip it up. I wanted it to live, quietly, tucked between things I no longer needed, like the truth, like the past, like her. Then came the moment I didn't plan for. A friend reached out, one of the last few who knew both sides of the story. She told me my ex was in the hospital, not dying, not hurt, just sick. Something that had gone untreated too long, alone too long. No one by her side, no emergency contact. She listed me still. After all this time, I didn't go, but I sent a card, no message, just a white card with a pressed yellow flower inside, the kind she used to tuck into books back when she still read for joy. It wasn't about kindness, it was about closure, the final nail, the final signal, that I could remember who she once was, without ever wanting her back. She got the message. Weeks later, I heard she'd moved again. Out of the city this time. No one knew where. Some said she left the country. Others said she changed her name. But no one really cared enough to find out. Her story had ended for everyone, quietly and without applause. But for me, the story didn't end with silence. It ended the day I walked into the old house one last time, before I handed over the keys, before it officially became someone else's dream. I stood in the center of the living room and looked around at the blank walls, the empty floor. I could still see her ghost there, laughing in the kitchen, humming on the stairs. I let those memories in, not to mourn, but to bury. And before I left, I opened the old kitchen drawer where she once kept that glass figurine, her little talisman. It was still there, cracked now, one wing chipped, the shine dulled. I took it out, held it for a moment, then set it on the windowsill. Let the sun hit it one last time, and I walked away. Let her watch it burn. Let her remember. Let the silence follow her wherever she runs. Because I didn't destroy her. She did. And now, she gets to live in the ashes. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this, and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.